What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. In this video, I'm going to be shooting some giant logs with my 4570, and I'm going to be using some hand loads and some factory ammo, and I want to see if they will be able to penetrate these giant aspen logs, and they have a diameter of 20 inches. I've already shot these logs with my 416 Ruger, my 300 Win Mag, and my 338 Lapua. So now I want to see how the 4570 stacks up against those, against the 20-inch diameter aspen logs. So let me show you guys the ammunition I'm going to be using. So I'm going to be using some buffalo bore 380 grain mono metals. These bullets are solid copper and they have a wide flat nose, and out of my 20-inch barrel Marlin 1895, I've chronographed them and I get a muzzle velocity of 2,050 feet per second, which comes out to a muzzle energy of 3,500 foot-pounds. Here I have some 450 grain brass solids, and I've hand-loaded these to 1,675 feet per second, and that comes out to 2,800 foot-pounds of muzzle energy. And here I have a 400 grain brass solid that I've hand loaded to right around 1,875 feet per second, and that comes out to 3,100 foot-pounds of muzzle energy. And then here we have a 430 grain buffalo bore hard cast, and these I've chronographed, and I get 1,875 feet per second and 3,350 foot-pounds of muzzle energy. And then here we have the famous Underwood Ammo Extreme Penetrator, and out of my 20-inch barrel Marlin 1895, I get a muzzle velocity of 2,250 feet per second, and that comes out to 3,400 foot-pounds. So these are all penetrators. We have mostly barrel loads here. We have the brass solids, we have the mono metals, the hard cast, and then we have the extreme penetrators, which are made of brass. And we're going to see if they can penetrate through these 20-inch diameter aspen logs. And let me show you guys the rifle I'm going to be using in this test. So this is a Marlin 1895 4570, and this is actually my first rifle. This was a gift from my father. When I turned 16, he bought this for me. So this rifle is quite old. It's from 2001. And I have customized it since then. I added this Midwest Industries tri-rail. It has M-lock slots, and I have this Silencer Co. Hybrid 46 that I shoot with this rifle now, and it makes shooting the 4570 a lot more comfortable. And I have some Brockman's iron sights. This front sight actually has a tritium vial in there. I have this Burris E-Dot 2-7 by 32 power scope, and this scope has actually been discontinued. Burris doesn't make it anymore, but it's absolutely amazing because it has a little red dot in the middle of the scope right where the crosshairs are, and it's basically like a red dot, but it has magnification so you can actually make some long shots. I have this Wild West Guns big loop lever. Highly recommend this. And I have this extra large screw here so you can actually take your lever off in the field with just your hands. You don't need a screwdriver. It has this knurled head so you can just unscrew and break down your lever and clean out your receiver if you need to, take your bolt off. And I still kept the wood buttstock. And here I have this leather cartridge cuff from Mason Leather. And if you're interested in getting one of these cartridge cuffs, I highly recommend it. And I have a discount code in the description below this video. You can get 10% off your entire order from Mason Leather. You just have to use the promo code NY10. Let me show you guys how nicely this cartridge cuff holds rounds. Look at that. Nice and snug. They don't fall out. Look at how thick the leather is, and Mason Leather is a veteran-owned company, a small business based out of Texas. So check them out. But let's see what happens, guys. Do you think we'll be able to penetrate through those 20-inch diameter aspen logs with these 4570 bear loads? Let's start shooting and let's see what happens. All right, guys, 4570 Buffalo Boar 380 grain monometal versus aspen logs. What do you guys think? Will it penetrate? Let's see what happens. All right, guys, 4570, 380 grain monometal Buffalo Boar versus 20-inch thick aspen logs. Did we penetrate? Well, here's our entrance hole on the first log right there. It's a little bit hard to see, but looks like we did penetrate the first log. Here's our exit hole on the first log. It's a pretty big exit hole, look at that. And then here's our entrance hole on the second log. Look at that hole, guys. Massive hole. 458 diameter hole. Look at that. Here's my pinky for comparison. That's how you know it's a 4570, that big hole. But no exit hole on the back of the second log. So we definitely penetrated the first log. You can see the exit hole right there. Entrance hole on the second log right there. And entrance hole on the first log. So let's hit it now with the 400 grain brass solids that I hand loaded to around 1,850 feet per second. And let's see if those will penetrate also. All right, guys, 4570, 400 grain brass solid hand loads, 1,850 feet per second versus aspen logs. Let's see what happens here. All right, guys, 4570, 400 grain brass solids, 1,873 feet per second versus 20-inch thick aspen logs. Here was our hit. You could see a much bigger entrance hole than the 380 grain. I don't know if that's because of the shape of the nose, but massive entrance hole right there. And looks like we did penetrate the first log. Here's our exit hole. Look at the size of that exit hole. That's impressive, guys. Massive exit hole there. And then here's our entrance hole right there. Check that out in the second log. And no exit hole on the second log. So it's stuck somewhere in the second log, but it easily penetrated through the first log. So that's pretty impressive. So now let's hit it with the extreme penetrator. All right, guys, 4570, 305 grain extreme penetrator from Underwood Ammo versus aspen logs. Let's see what happens here. All right, guys, 4570, 450 grain brass solid, hand load, 1650 feet per second versus aspen logs. Let's see what happens here. All right, guys, 450 grain brass solid, hand load, 1,677 feet per second versus aspen logs. Here was our entrance hole right there. And did we penetrate? Yes, we did. There's our exit hole right there. Check that out. Lots of penetration for such a slow velocity and very minimal recoil, but basically we penetrated through the thickest part of the log here, 20 inches. Very impressive. And we do have an entrance hole here right there, but no exit hole on the back of the second log. So pretty much all of them easily penetrating through the first 20-inch thick log. Now let's hit it with the 430 grain hard cast, and let's see if the hard cast will penetrate. But very impressive penetration from the 4570. Recoil is really not that bad at all, especially if you're standing up. Even off the bench, the recoil for me is very light, especially with the 400 grain brass solid and the 450 grain brass solid. You don't have to necessarily load these bullets to the max to get good penetration. You actually don't want to load your bullets to the max. You could have an overpressure situation for various reasons, and that could cause failure to extract or difficulty in extraction. And if you're dealing with a charging bear or an angry bear, you may have to take follow-up shots. And if, let's say, you loaded your first shot too hot and you have sticky extraction or very difficult extraction, seconds count. And while you're trying to extract that case, the bear could turn around and attack you. So it's better to stay a little bit below max when we're talking about bear defense and dangerous game defense ammo. But check that out, guys. That is really impressive. I'm very, very impressed by these brass solids. So let's hit it with the hard cast and see what the hard cast does. All right, guys, 4570, 430 grain hard cast buffalo bore versus aspen logs. Let's see what happens. All right, guys, 4570, 430 grain hard cast, 1,870 feet per second versus aspen log. Here was our entrance hole in the first log. You can see that big 458 diameter entrance hole, but no exit hole on the back of the first log. So it doesn't look like it penetrated the first log, while the other bullets easily penetrated all day long. But the 430 grain hard cast did not penetrate from what I see. And it actually doesn't surprise me, because hard cast bullets are still lead, and lead is softer than brass and copper. And what'll happen is, even though hard cast bullets are a little bit harder than pure lead, they still deform and they smear their nose a little bit when they penetrate. So they can lose some of their momentum because forward momentum, because the nose gets deformed and flattened out a little bit, and that slows the bullet down. So no exit hole on the back of the first log with the 430 grain hard cast. So I know what I'm going to take with me to Alaska when I go hunting or camping or sightseeing. I'm going to bring my 400 grain brass solid hand loads because the recoil is moderate and it still penetrates really, really well. But that's pretty much it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more 4570, check out my 4570 playlist. I'll leave a link in the top right corner. If you want to see more of my log penetration tests, I've already done 300 Win Mag, 338 Lapua, 416 Ruger, and 308. So check those videos out. I'll leave links in the top right corner. And until next time, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps. Prepare, practice, and persevere.